Picture this. You're standing at the crossroads of feudal Japan. Two legendary paths stretching before you. One leads to the razor-sharp precision of From Software's Sekiro, where every parry feels like a heartbeat and every deflection is a dance with death. The other, Team Ninja's Nioh 2, a beast of a game that throws customization, loot, and supernatural chaos at you like a yokai gone wild. Both games wear the armor of samurai-era Japan. Both will kick your teeth in if you're not careful, but they couldn't be more different if they tried. So which one deserves your time? Let's break it down.
Let's start with the heart of these games, combat. Because let's be real, if you're picking up either of these titles, you're here to fight, and fight hard. Sekiro is like learning to play a musical instrument. It's precise, it's rhythmic, and once you get it, you feel like an absolute god. The entire combat system revolves around the posture mechanic. Forget health bars for a moment. You're trying to break your opponent's guard through aggressive deflections and counterattacks. Every enemy, from the lowliest soldier to the towering bosses, is a rhythm game waiting to be mastered. You deflect their attacks with perfectly timed blocks, and when their posture meter fills up, boom! You deliver a devastating death blow that feels incredibly satisfying. The beauty of Sekiro is in its simplicity. You have one sword, one playstyle, and you're gonna master it or die trying. There's no hiding behind different builds or overpowered gear. It's just you, your katana, and your prosthetic arm full of tricks. The game forces you to be aggressive, to stay in your enemy's face, deflecting and attacking in a furious back and forth that feels more like a duel than a fight.
Now flip the script to Nioh 2, and suddenly you're in a completely different game. Where Sekiro is focused and precise, Nioh 2 is chaotic and expansive. This is an action RPG through and through, with 9 different weapon types, 3 different stances for each weapon, and a skill tree so deep you could get lost in it for hours. Want to be a lightning festival swordsman? Go for it. Feel like crushing skulls with a giant axe? You got it. Maybe you want to transform into a yokai demon and unleash hell? Yeah. Nioh 2 lets you do that too. The combat revolves around ki management, essentially stamina, and the brilliant ki pull system. After you attack, you tap a button at the right time to recover your stamina instantly. It's like a minigame within the combat that rewards timing and keeps you engaged. Add in the yokai abilities, burst counters, and the sheer variety of moves at your disposal. And Nioh 2 becomes this incredibly technical fighting game where you can create insane combo chains that would make a Devil May Cry player jealous. Both games take us to Japan's Sengoku period, but they approach it from wildly different angles. Sekiro gives us a focused, linear narrative. You play as Wolf, a shinobi bound by duty to protect his young lord Kuro, who possesses the power of immortality. The story is tight, deliberate, and deeply tied to themes of loyalty and sacrifice. You're not just fighting through Japan, you're on a specific mission, dealing with specific characters and making choices that lead to different endings. The game takes place in a fantastical version of the Ashina region, with interconnected areas that loop back on themselves in classic From Software fashion. The world of Sekiro is beautiful, but grounded. Sure, there are supernatural elements and mythical beasts, but the game maintains this sense of historical authenticity even when things get weird. The architecture, the landscapes, the cherry blossoms falling as you engage in deadly duels. It all feels cohesive and purposeful. Nioh 2, meanwhile, is a historical fantasy mashup that's not afraid to get absolutely wild. You play as Hide, a customizable character who's half human, half yokai, and you're jumping through the major events of the Sengoku period, meeting actual historical figures like Oda Nobunaga and Tokugawa Ieyasu. The game blends real history with Japanese mythology and folklore, throwing demons, spirits, and supernatural creatures at you alongside samurai armies. The structure is mission-based rather than open world. You select missions from a map, dive into these self-contained levels filled with enemies and loot, and then return to your hub. It's less about exploration and more about mastering individual challenges and farming for better gear. Some might find this repetitive, but if you love the grind and the hunt for perfect loot, Nioh 2 has you covered for hundreds of hours.
This is where the two games diverge dramatically. Sekiro is not an RPG. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Sekiro is not an RPG. You can't change your weapon. You can't respec your character into a mage or a tank. You're playing as Wolf with his katana and his prosthetic tools, and that's it. The progression comes from learning skills, finding prayer beads to increase your health, and unlocking new prosthetic tools like the flamethrower or the umbrella shield. The lack of customization is deliberate. It makes you master what you have rather than min-maxing your way to victory. Nioh 2 is the polar opposite. This is a loot game, baby, and it wants you drowning in equipment. Every enemy drops weapons and armor with different stats, special effects, and set bonuses. You're constantly comparing gear, optimizing your build, and experimenting with different combinations of weapons, magic, and ninja skills. Want to be a heavy armored tank with earth magic? Do it! Prefer a ninja build with poison damage and lightning fast attacks? Go nuts! The weapon variety alone is staggering. Swords, dual swords, spears, axes, kusarigama, odachi, tonfa, splitglaive, fists, each with their own movesets and skill trees. You can equip 2 weapons at once and switch between them mid-combat, giving you access to potentially 6 different stance variations. The depth is insane. And if you're the type of player who loves fury crafting and build diversity, Nioh 2 is paradise. But this freedom comes at a cost. Inventory management, stat optimization, and EU comparison can feel overwhelming. Sekiro respects your time by keeping things simple. Nioh 2 respects your time by giving you 1,000 ways to play.
Both games are hard, like really hard, but they're hard in different ways. Sekiro has a brutal learning curve because there's only one way to play. You can't over-level, you can't cheese encounters with ranged attacks, you can't summon help. You either learn to deflect or you die. The game is unforgiving to players who try to play it like Dark Souls, dodging and circling. You need to stand your ground, read enemy patterns, and engage in that rhythmic dance of deflection and attack. Bosses like Lady Butterfly, Genichiro, and the final boss, Ishin the Sword Saint, are skill checks. If you haven't mastered the combat system, you're not getting past them. But here's the beautiful thing. Once you get it, once that system clicks, Sekiro becomes almost meditative. You're no longer thinking about the inputs. You're just flowing, reacting, becoming one with the combat. Nioh 2's difficulty is more variable. The game can be brutally hard if you rush in without preparation, but it gives you tons of tools to make things easier. You can summon AI companions, use powerful yokai abilities, optimize your gear for specific encounters, and even over-level content if you want. The difficulty comes from the complexity, learning all the systems, understanding key management, knowing when to burst, counter, figuring out weapon combos. Yokai bosses have this unique mechanic where you need to deplete their ki bar twice, once to make them vulnerable, and again to get a critical hit opportunity. It's a more mechanical form of difficulty compared to Sekiro's emphasis on timing and reflexes. Some players find Nioh 2 easier because of all these options. Others find it harder because there's so much to learn.
Sekiro has 13 major bosses, and almost every single one is memorable. From the acrobatic Lady Butterfly to the lightning-fast Genichiro, from the tragic Guardian Ave to the ultimate test, that is Ishin the Sword Sand. These fights are meticulously designed encounters that test everything you've learned. Each boss feels like a conversation, a back and forth where you learn their language and eventually speak it fluently. Nioh 2 throws 42 bosses at you, and while that's impressive, not all of them hit the same highs. Some are incredible showcases of design and difficulty, while others feel like variations on themes you've seen before. The yokai bosses have unique mechanics with their dual key bars and weak points, requiring different strategies than human opponents. But here's the thing. Nioh 2's boss variety comes from the RPG elements. You can approach the same boss with completely different builds and have totally different experiences. One player might destroy a boss with ranged attacks and debuffs, while another gets up close with fists and brute force. It's quantity and variety over pure focused design. Can't decide? Here's my hot take. Play Sekiro first. Master that combat system, feel the rush of deflection, experience one of the tightest action games ever made. Then, dive into Nioh 2 when you want something you can sink hundreds of hours into, something with more variety and customization. They complement each other beautifully. Sekiro for the artistry, Nioh 2 for the depth. Both games respect the player's skill and demand excellence. Both will kick your ass and make you love it. The question isn't which is better, it's which type of challenge speaks to you. The focused intensity of a perfectly timed deflection, or the satisfaction of a perfectly optimized build tearing through enemies. The choice is yours, but either way, you're in for one hell of a ride through feudal Japan. Now, get out there and start dying. You've got a lot of it ahead of you, and trust me, it's gonna be beautiful.